My toxic coworker is claiming that I didn't actually graduate from college and that I lied on my resume just to get the job that we all have. So I decide to get some petty revenge by showing up to the office with my diploma, proving that not only did I graduate college, but I also graduated first class with honors. And now, as a result, my coworker is claiming that I humiliated him in front of everybody. And now I'm left wondering if I'm the jerk in this situation or if this guy actually had it coming. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work in an office where everyone has at least a bachelor's degree. And trust me, this will be important later on. Most of my coworkers have their degree framed on the walls of their offices, and some also have pictures of them at their graduations. And as a fun fact, I think I'm the only one that doesn't. I would rather decorate my walls with pictures of my wife and me on trips that we've taken. I also didn't even attend my college graduation, as I'm not much for ceremonies in general. So I don't have any cap and gown pictures, which honestly has never bothered me. Recently, a coworker, who we will call John for the sake of the story, started actually suggesting that I didn't actually go to college and that I lied to get this job. Now, the accusation was so ridiculous that I basically just ignored it. But when I did this, that only seemed to convince him even more. He started saying dumb stuff like, "Oh, it must be nice to have gotten this job without doing any real work. Oh, I wish I could have gotten this job without student loans. If you'd have gone to college like the rest of us, you would understand." Now, I really tried ignoring him, thinking he probably just wanted to start drama of some kind. But eventually, I could sense our other coworkers beginning to think that John might be right, especially since I was choosing not to dispute it. So I decided to get petty, and I figured that I would just bring my stupid degree in and put an end to all of this. Now, here's the thing. I did really well in school, which was enough that I graduated with first class honors, which my diploma proudly says. And I've never mentioned this to anyone at work because it didn't feel that important. It's the degree itself that really matters. However, when I brought my diploma in, my coworkers really focused on the first class honors thing, and as a result, I became kind of a hotshot of the office that day, which was really weird. My boss insisted that I add it to my wall, saying that it looked good for the company. My coworkers then began teasing John about the whole thing, pointing out that his degree doesn't say anything about honors, and saying that it was a dumb accusation to make in the first place. Well, now John is pissed off and calling me a jerk, saying that I made him look bad with the whole honors thing, and saying that I could have found some other way to prove that I graduated without bringing in my degree. So seriously, am I the jerk for bringing my diploma into work just to prove that I graduated and shut John down? Because right now, I'm really not sure what to do. Okay, first of all, you are definitely not the jerk in this story. John is an absolute weirdo, and he ate his words almost immediately. And honestly, this is exactly what he deserves. He literally went out of his way to bully you at work and be like, "Oh, you don't actually have a college degree. It must be nice to get here without doing any real work." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, for starters, you have absolutely nothing to prove to this guy. You yourself know that you have a degree, so this guy tried to come at you and be like, "Wow, you don't have one. You lied on your resume." Like, that is so disgusting and unprofessional, it's not even funny. So the fact that you brought in your diploma and put it up and said, "Oh, look at this, I have it with first class honors." Like, even if you didn't mean to do that, that in my opinion is like the best revenge you could have possibly asked for. Because now John's trying to spit it and be like, "Wow, you made me look bad. You could have proved that you had a degree without embarrassing me." And that's basically all this comes down to. You not only prove that yes, you do have a diploma, but also you did better in school than he did. Because his diploma doesn't have first class honors. If anything, this just proves once and for all that John put his foot in his mouth, and that is absolutely not your problem. John absolutely deserves every ounce of backlash that he's getting from his coworkers, because his behavior towards you was just straight up workplace bullying. And the fact that you shut him down in the way that you did, even if you didn't mean to do that intentionally, in my opinion, is the best way this possibly could have gone down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk literally blocks me from leaving a parking lot by standing there on his phone with his car door open, preventing me from backing out. So I decided to be petty by honking my horn for as long as possible until this jerk finally got out of my way. Here's what happened. Okay, so recently I parked in an underground car park at a small shopping center. I parked nose in next to a large pole on my left, and there was an empty car space beside me when I went into the center. Now, when I returned to my car with a full shopping cart trolley, a man had parked next to me and reversed into the spot. And he was on his phone standing in between my car and his, with his driver's door open. And his door was almost touching my driver's door. So I gave him a nod to say hello, unloaded the groceries into the trunk, and returned to my trolley. When I came back to my car, I said to him, "Excuse me, please." And I said this so I could enter my car, thinking that he would realize that I wanted to leave. Well, this guy gave me the biggest sideways stink eye, still talking on his phone, but did move slightly and close his door so I could get in my car. But as soon as I'm in, he opens his door again. Now, if I had reversed, my wing mirror would have clipped his door, and I cannot swing my car the other way because of the pole. So I lower my window and I ask him nicely. I say to him, "Excuse me, can you close your door so I can leave?" This guy then glares at me, holds up his finger in a waiting motion, and then turns away. So I think to myself, okay. I close my window, I lock the doors, I look at him directly, and I lay my hand on the horn. He then spins around, and he looked like he was gonna lose his mind. Mind you, he is still on his phone, and my hand is on the horn. He then glares at me even harder, but my hand is still on the horn. I raise my eyebrows, and I just keep looking directly at him. Finally, he gets in his car and slams his door. I take my hand off the horn, I mouth the word thank you to him with a sweet smile, and then I reverse my car and get out of there. So was I petty in this situation? Yes. But also, did it feel good? Oh yes, that felt absolutely amazing. Oh man, I can't stand people who act like this, who are like, oh yeah, my phone call's way more important than you. Like, this guy can obviously see that you're trying to leave and go home, but he wants to act like some big hotshot and be like, no, you can wait, and just stands there and literally blocks you from leaving. So honestly, I think what you did was the only solution available. This guy was not listening and he was not letting you leave. And I just love the fact that you went ahead and blew the horn at this guy because he absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for refusing to switch seats with my girlfriend on a plane? Because right now she is still upset with me, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this past weekend, my girlfriend and I took a weekend trip. And for the sake of the story, we'll call my girlfriend Julie. That's not her real name. We're both students, so we had to budget where we could. So we bought basic economy tickets and just took whatever seats they assigned us. They were both middle seats, which was to be expected. But when we boarded the plane, it was pretty obvious that one seat was much better than the other one. Julie was assigned to a seat between a morbidly obese man who was spilling into her seat and a woman on her other side who wasn't as huge but was still quite big. But my seat was next to two normal-sized people. The thing is, I'm pretty big. I'm 6'5" and I weigh 220 pounds, and I have broad shoulders. Now, Julie isn't tiny herself. She's 5'10" and 165 pounds, but obviously she's much smaller than me. Julie immediately asked if we could switch seats, to which I said no. I knew Julie would be uncomfortable in the seats, but I don't even think I could fit between the passengers on either side of her. After some arguing back and forth, Julie sighed and just went back to her seat. Now, I thought it wasn't a big deal, but Julie was very cold to me when we landed. I offered to get us dinner on the way out, but she said her back hurt from the flight and she wanted to lay down. Well, I got the hint that she was upset about the seating arrangement, and I told her it wasn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things, and it was only a 2-hour flight, and that it's better her than me because she's smaller. Well, she told me to drop it and just drive her home. That night, I went to hang out with some of our mutual friends, and Julie had originally planned on coming too, but she ended up not going. Well, they asked where Julie was, and I told them that she was upset with me. When I told them why, the general consensus was that I should have switched seats with her because it was the chivalrous thing to do, though some people agreed that Julie was overreacting. They said it wasn't about who was bigger, it was about me protecting my girlfriend. And at this point, I kind of feel like a jerk and I feel like I should be apologizing. So was I in the wrong for not switching seats with Julie? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk for keeping the assigned seat, but I think the way you went about doing this and the way you dismiss Julie's feelings entirely, in my opinion, is really not okay. That part definitely makes you the jerk. Instead of hearing her out and apologizing and being like, hey, I'm really sorry for taking that seat and I understand why you're upset, or at least hearing her out, you basically said, oh, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Just calm down. It's only a 2-hour flight. It's like, dude, you're only adding gasoline to the fire. There was really no reason for that, and that honestly just kind of made things worse in my opinion. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for keeping the seats that you had, but I do think that you should have handled that situation way better. Am I the jerk for showing up to my cousin's wedding, only to then find out that I wasn't specifically invited to attend? Because right now the entire family is mad at me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm an 18-year-old female, and my cousin's wedding was this weekend. For the sake of the story, I'll call her Mary. Growing up, we were pretty close, as me and my siblings often went to Mary's house. But lately, we haven't really seen each other much, because all of them moved away for college, but it is still nice to see each other at family events. Well, a year and a half ago, she met her now husband, and he was invited to Christmas, Easter, and every family event since then. When he was there, I noticed that Mary was a lot more distant than usual, and barely talked to me, but talked with my siblings all night. And I just figured that it was maybe because of our age difference. For reference, I'm 18 years old and she is 22, and my siblings are 20 and 23. A few weeks and months go by, and we got an invitation to their wedding in the mail. Well, at least my parents did. My name wasn't mentioned on the invitation, which was addressed to my family's name, but since I live with my parents and my brother and sister both got one, I assumed that I was included, and so did my parents. But Mary's face dropped when she saw me. She pretended to smile, but I could see that something was bothering her. The wedding went on, but during the cocktail, Mary came to me and asked me why I came, since she didn't send me an invitation. And when she said this, I was taken back a bit, but we told her that we assumed that I was included and asked her why she didn't invite me. She avoided the question, but after insisting a bit, she told me that she wanted her husband's family to have a good impression of her family and didn't want them to know that her cousin was a lesbian because she wanted to have a normal family. For context, our family is pretty open-minded, and all of them accept me, but her husband and his family are a lot more traditional and conservative. What I don't understand is that I don't look gay, whatever that means, and they would have never known unless someone told them. When she said this, I was so shocked. I told her that she was sick for caring about impressing a bunch of jerks more than her own cousin. She then got mad and we both got a bit loud, which did attract some kind of attention. People came to find out what was happening, and when they found out, my parents said that she was being mean and shouldn't have made a big deal about this. But a bunch of other people said that it was wrong of me to come when I wasn't invited. Mary then started telling me to leave, so I just stormed off. Ever since then, I've been receiving text messages from her and her parents saying that I was a jerk for showing up, making a scene, and ruining her big day. I understand that it's her wedding and she can invite whoever she wants, but her words were so hurtful, and I genuinely thought that I was invited. But I know it's wrong that I caused such a scene on her wedding day, and maybe I should have just left and not said anything. So am I at fault in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're at fault at all because this seems like an honest mistake. It's not like you knew you weren't invited. You showed up because you've considered Mary family. You obviously have some kind of like deep history with her, so for her to suddenly be like, I want everybody here except for the lesbian, like that is seriously insane. That is so uncalled for. But here's the other thing that I'm kind of thinking, and I don't have any evidence to substantiate this, but it really seems like Mary is not inviting you not because her family doesn't like gay people, but because she doesn't like gay people. You said it yourself, there's no way they could ever know that you're a lesbian unless somebody told them in some kind of way. But the fact that she wouldn't stand up for you and at least be like, oh yeah, this is my cousin and there's not a problem here, like that is super toxic, and it leads me to believe that she's the one that has a problem with you being a lesbian and she's using her extended family as a cop-out. And if that's the case, then my god, if I was in your shoes, I would run away and never look back. But you know what? In my opinion, you are not at fault here because she's the one that came to you and made a big deal out of this. And she said that this is the reason specifically when you try to figure out, wait a second, why do you not want me here? So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think Mary is definitely the one with a problem. And if she didn't want to invite you, then she should have told you like an adult instead of just assuming that you wouldn't be there, because that is incredibly immature and you do not deserve that in the slightest. My entitled roommate demands that I turn off the heat at any given moment, and despite the fact that it's been near freezing temperatures outside at night, this guy still demands that I keep it off also he can save a pretty penny. So I decided to maliciously comply, but instead I bought a heater that I keep on in my room literally 24 hours a day, costing this jerk hundreds of dollars on the electrical bill. And I've honestly never felt better about getting revenge on my roommate in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so my housemates are the most insufferable people on the planet. I could go on for hours about all the petty and downright aggressive stuff they've done, but for the sake of this post, I'll keep it very short. Both of them have these stupid things they get so anal over for no reason. For one of them, it's leaving drawers and cabinets open, even by like half an inch, and if she catches you, she will literally scream and threaten to hit you. The other one is the door, the leaky faucet he's convinced everyone is doing on purpose, and lights being turned on for like half a second. But one of the most recent things he's decided to be petty over is the heating being on at all. For context, it's a 2-story house. Roommate 1 sleeps downstairs, and me and roommate 2 sleep upstairs. I'm on the north side of the house, and I have very poor insulation, whereas he's on the south side, and he has amazing insulation. Regardless, it doesn't justify his actions, because he's also a landlord for another property, and knows that you need to keep heat on at least 60 to be legal and up to code. I stay upstairs 99% of the time, because I hate interacting with them, and they're downstairs 90% of the time except for when they sleep. He goes upstairs every few hours during the day just to check the thermostat, and if it's anything above being turned off in the first place, he goes right over to me and demands that I stop playing with the heat. This month alone, the nighttime temperatures have been 40 degrees at most, and by the way, last night it was around 35. I had turned up the heat to a mere 60 degrees because I don't want the pipes in my room to freeze, and I own mice, and they will literally pass away if they're exposed to anything under 60-degree weather. As soon as he came upstairs, he turned it all the way off and came into my room to complain at me in my sleep. I eventually woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning to my room being 38 degrees and my dog whining. So after that, I went right out and I bought a 1500-watt convention heater and a heating pad for mice, which was about 20 watts. And I kept that thing on nearly 24 hours a day, every single day. By the way, he's also the one who pays the majority of the electrical electrical bill, and if he wants to play Lord of the Thermostat to the point that it's literally criminal and it's going to destroy the house's pipes, then he should have no problem paying an extra $200 a month just to heat my room. Yeah, that roommate's a weirdo. Seriously, just let people have the heat on. It's cold outside, man. And you even have pets. Like, you have animals that need to have some kind of heat, otherwise they're gonna pass away. And this guy wants to sit there and be like, don't turn the heat on. What's wrong with you? It's like, oh, I don't know, buddy. Maybe it's freezing temperatures in my room, idiot. Like, the fact that this guy wants to complain and be like, don't use the heat. Stop it. You better not. Like, that's crazy and just so weird. And he's only doing this for selfish reasons. He wants to keep the heat off so he doesn't have to pay for it. So that's so unacceptable, and maybe it's time to call the landlord and be like, hey, this is totally not fair, because what you're dealing with sounds so obnoxious and uncomfortable, and I really don't think that you should have to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for being the reason that my grandparents refused to help out my dad anymore after he decided to steal and spend my inheritance money? Here's what happened. Okay, I'm a 16-year-old male, and my mom passed away when I was 7 years old. She left me an inheritance that my dad was put in charge of. The money was supposed to be used for my future, and nobody was supposed to touch it unless I really needed it, and it was pretty specific. I mean, I even read through it 5 months ago when things went down. My dad got married again when I was 10 years old, and he has an 8-year-old stepdaughter and now a 4-year-old daughter with his wife, who we will call Louise. My half-sister was diagnosed with a rare condition when she was 2 years old. It was always clear something was wrong, but they had a really hard time figuring out what it was. Now, the doctors would say that she would be fine when she was older. This condition isn't life-threatening, meaning that she probably won't pass away from it, but it potentially could leave her permanently disabled in a bad way. A few months ago, they found out about this hard-to-get-into treatment for it, but it was expensive. Now, there was and is ways to get help paying for it, but that takes a lot longer. So, my dad decided that he would use the inheritance that mom left me to pay for it. He had tried asking me, but he was going to do it anyways. And when I said no, he told me as much. Then he shamed me for saying no, for putting college before the health of my sister. Now, Louise was in the room with us, but she wasn't talking before I said no. She asked me how I could even look at my half-sister and the life that she will probably have, and made me feel bad because they needed to do something, but I'm over here saying no. I then told my dad that I would never forgive him if he took the money, and after I read my mother's will, which my grandparents thankfully had a copy of, I brought up the fact that the money can only be spent on my needs. He then said to me that mom was dead, and he would hope that she would understand, but I told him I never would. He then told me that I would understand when I'm older, but I told him that I hated him, and I told Louise that she better never speak to me again, because I found it disgusting that she'd encourage stealing from me and taking my mom's money. I then told my grandparents what my dad did. They are my mom's parents, but had stayed friendly with dad, and there were times that they would help him out. They shared stuff with him all the time, and my grandpa would look at dad's car for free if anything was wrong with it. Well, all of that stopped when I told them, and dad couldn't figure out why until he confronted them about it last week. They told him he had some nerve stealing from me, taking their daughter's money, and then spending it on his child. Well, my dad was mad they didn't understand and support his decision. He then confronted me about it and complained about what I did, but I just laughed and I told him I had warned him that I would never forgive him for it. He then asked me how I got to be so heartless and selfish, but I told him I would never forgive him for what he did. So truly, am I at fault in this situation? Because right now, I am still incredibly mad. No, I don't think you're at fault here at all. Like, seriously, this guy took your money and gave it to somebody else. And yes, I understand that the situation is really dire and you're trying to figure things out, but that should not come out of your pocket. He has literally taken away your college career, all for a treatment that might not even work. And yes, I absolutely have sympathy for whatever this stepkid is going through. Like, this is not fun and it's not fair for them. But it's the fact that he stole your money instead of using his own money that really just kind of sets my hair on fire. Like, I don't care the circumstances. You don't dip into that money because seriously, it is not yours to take from. So truly, if your dad has a problem with your grandparents knowing about this, then he should not have been the one to do this in the first place. An entitled Karen loses her mind over the fact that I was using AirPods when she was trying to chase me down and ask me a question. And I'm honestly still so annoyed by this Karen, and I hope I don't have to deal with her ever again. Here's what happened. So I live in a condo complex that's notoriously difficult to navigate, and since I go outside hourly to smoke, I do occasionally encounter people asking for directions. Today, I have my AirPods in, minding my own business, walking 2 blocks over to my usual spot when I suddenly feel someone aggressively tapping me on the shoulder. I turn around and I find some older entitled Karen glaring at me. I then take out one of my AirPods, waiting for her to say something, but instead she gives me this over-the-top shrug as if I'm supposed to magically know what she wants. Now, I do struggle a bit with being approachable at times, but I do like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I ask her if I can help her out with anything. She then informs me in a very annoyed voice that she's been calling after me the entire time that I was walking. Now, I was already slightly irritated, but I pull out the other AirPod and I show it to her, explaining that I had these in my ears so I couldn't hear her. Now, rather than addressing whatever she needed, she stammers a bit and tells me that I was being discourteous. Now, at this point, rather than asking her if she even knows what that word means, I calmly put my headphones back in, I pull out my phone, and I stand there smoking like she doesn't exist. She then finally asks me where some building is, but you know what? I just ignore her. She then repeatedly starts saying, "Excuse me," and she's saying this louder and louder. So I look up at her with a blank expression, as if I'm seeing her for the first time, and then she screams as loud as she can, "Excuse me," but this time she has actual anger in her face. And I just point at my headphones and give a casual shrug that says, "Sorry, I can't hear you, and there's nothing you can do about it." And then I just go straight back to my phone. Now, there's no music playing, so I can hear every single word this Karen is saying, and she says to me, "You're absolutely unbelievably disrespectful." She then swore at me and walks away, and she does so while still talking to herself, while I smugly enjoy winning this passive-aggressive battle. Wow, some people are just so entitled. Wearing AirPods and walking down the street is not discourteous. That is you just being a normal human being and like going about your life. The fact that she wants to blame you on her being lost is just so weird in my opinion. So personally, I love the way you handled this because people who act like this really just need to be shut out. And the fact that you gave her the silent treatment and that's what made her so angry, in my opinion, is super hilarious. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.